Hi, you're with Wendy McAgee, your host on Jefferson Highlights Community Television. With us here today are members of the Jefferson Rescue Squad to talk about some of the latest developments. We'll start with our new squad captain, Jim Sutton.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Welcome.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about how long you've been the captain and what led you to the post?
Well, I became captain in September of 2005. The captain that was in place at that time wasn't able to complete the year, so they had an election in the middle of the year, and I became captain then. And then just recently, at the beginning of the year, there was another election, and I was continued captain for another year. I'll be captain until 2007.
So you were a pretty dedicated member at the time then to aspire to the top post.
Well, it takes a lot of time. It does take a lot of time to be captain, because there's 30 members that you have to work with, and there's some business issues you have to take care of in the organization. It's a certain amount of time involved with it. But
so it takes away from your day job a bit then?
My night job.
Your night job. And your family time and leisure time and all. About how many hours on average would you say that you spend?
A week? I probably spend at minimum an hour a day working on different things for the squad, either maintaining data files or inspecting things, or working with people. Some people have training issues, some people have issues about what nights they want to ride. So there's a certain amount of time every night that I spend. And I get lots of phone calls too now. My phone rings all the time.
Are most of them real calls or just sort of
Well,
false
when my
alarms?
phone rings, it's more like issues about what can I do? I need some training, I need some gear, I need to move my night, or I'm not able to cover that night. That's what I get most phone calls for.
Okay. What would you say is the most challenging types of calls that you get or issues to deal with?
Like squad calls or captain issues?
Both.
Both? Well, captain issues, it's, I guess because I'm not a natural manager, you know, that's kind of like hard for me. Because on the squad, for the previous 6 years I was on the squad, I just had to take care of myself. So I always knew what I needed to do. But now, as a captain, I need to make sure that 30 people know what they need to do. And that's kind of challenging, because some people know how to do everything that they need, and other people need to be reminded occasionally of what they need to do.
Okay, so they really have to look to you for some guidance and...
Yeah, I think so. I think that if the captain is focused and organized, then the rest of the squad's focused and organized.
Right, trickles down.
Yeah.
What would you say is some different plans that you may have in store for us as the new captain?
For the squad for the new year? Well, one is to, the first thing that I focused on was reorganizing the building a little bit, because our building's a little on the older side, so it needs some different, it needs a little bit of attention in some areas. So we bought some new furniture where some of our furniture was very old, and we cleaned out and reorganized so that we were taking better use of our space, and it just looks a lot neater and nicer to come inside and have the building all organized. And then after that, we spent some time restructuring some of the bylaws and some of the rules so that they were a little bit more flexible for the members, so that they could, it was easier for people to join and participate in the squad, where some of the bylaws and the rules might have been a little bit too strict and made it hard for some people to devote all the time that it was requiring. So we're trying to become more flexible so we can attract more members.
Right.
And in doing so, we recognize that a lot of people's schedules are very demanding.
Sure.
And they can't make the squad a major part of their life, but yet they want to come and help out. So that's what we're trying to do.
Right. I suspect that this will map into my next question, but in a perfect world, what would be on your wish list as captain?
Is more day members.
Yes.
Yes. Day members are hard for us because today everybody's a 9-to-5-er, so everybody gets up in the morning, they leave and go to work, and then they come home in the evening. I do it. You know, my work starts at 8:30 and I get off at 5. I work right in town here, but in doing so, we lose a lot of the people that cover. We lose the squad members that are covering for us in that. So there are certain people who are available. Dennis Walker's one of them. He's one of our longest day members on, probably. He works at night, right, Dennis?
Yes.
So we look for other people that either work during the evenings or are retired, or another perfect day member would be a stay-at-home mom whose children go to school during the day and might have a window where they leave at 9 o'clock in the morning and they don't come home until 3, so then in the afternoon, you know, the more day members that we could attract, the better it would be for us.
Yeah, I've heard you refer to them as the golden ones.
They're the golden
and I guess
ones,
they're
yes.
kind of hard to recruit, but when you have them,
They're golden, and you keep them, and you do whatever you can to keep them.
and nurture those relationships. Okay, so and you do in fact have some homemakers and retired folks.
Our day schedule right now is sufficient to cover all the calls that take place, but really requires that each day member give an extra effort, and that can tend to burn them out over time because they're on 5 days a week. Dennis covers 5 days a week. So, where a normal member generally only covers one duty night, and they'll only be on for one 12-hour shift, and during that 12-hour shift you might go weeks without ever having a squad call. The Dennis and the day members cover every day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So.
Now, what do you do when you do find yourself short and there's an important call?
Well, we have a number of procedures in place so that we make sure that every call that takes place in Lake Hopatcong gets covered.
Plan B, huh?
Plan B. Well, we have B, and we have Plan C, and we have Plan D. Plan B is that whenever a call takes place where the number of volunteers necessary to cover it is not there, we have a thing called fireman drivers, okay? And what the fire department does is if we ask them and request them, their members will come and drive the ambulance for us, which will then free up our member to be the attendant in the back of the ambulance. In addition to that, we are now almost complete in an arrangement with the town to utilize municipal workers as drivers also in critical times. So that's another great safety. I'm calling that our safety net, because now in a case where we run a little short, we can request one of their drivers and we cover the call. Now if that wasn't to take place, we have what's called mutual aid, and the surrounding towns, including the Milton First Aid Squad, which is our sister squad, will come and cover the call for us.
I see.
And then lastly, we can always request that an ambulance come from the hospital. So every call that takes place in our town is always covered 100% of the time.
Now, what kind of training would be involved when you do recruit in other members who aren't regular members?
When a new member comes onto the squad, what kind of trainings? Well, the first training that you would get is your CPR and your AED training. You would get training for POSHA.
POSHA?
POSHA is a training, what does that stand for, Kathy?
I don't know what exactly it stands for, but I know it's our bloodborne pathogens, making sure that they're aware that they need to wear gloves and be careful about blood and that type of stuff.
It's how do you protect yourself and not infect yourself with the people that you're working with.
Right, and others.
And then the last training that you would have to take, it would be your EMT. And that's provided for by the state. The state pays for that.
Correct.
And that's a several-month course, but it's a very nice course. Everything you ever wanted to learn about first aid takes place during that course, which is really great. That's one of the things that, when I first came on.
It sounds like you have very good relationships with other entities within the township. Can you elaborate a little bit more about how you interact with the town council, the mayor, other government officials within the town?
You know, I never ever spoke to the mayor before I became captain. So now I've talked several times with the mayor, and then I've also talked to most of the councilmen and introduced myself. The Jefferson Rescue Squad has a fantastic relationship with the mayor and the town council. They help us out tremendously.
Would you say that's unusual?
It's not unusual, but it's not always the case in every town in New Jersey. There's some towns that the squads in the town don't get along at all, and that's unfortunate, because if you think about it, the rescue squad is a group of volunteers that belong to your community that want to give additional time above and beyond to help out. So it's
at the end of the day, you really have common goals.
Right. It's to help the town. But getting back to our town, the town, when we suggested looking into doing the municipal driver program, the town was very interested in it.
Good.
And very proactive in helping us get that set up. The town is also very active helping us set up the foundation. They're helping us obtain land to get a new building off of Esplanade Road that Dennis is working with the mayor and the council on.
Have you outgrown your digs on Route 15, or would this be an adjunct facility?
It would be a new facility for us. The building on Route 15 is tight. It doesn't have a proper training area, where in some cases when we have training classes, they attract a large group of people, and our meeting area is very small. Route 15 is very noisy and very busy.
True.
And sometimes getting to the building is difficult, and sometimes getting the ambulance out, even out onto the roads to go to the calls is difficult. I mean, in the morning, Route 15 can generally be bumper to bumper, and
I know. What's the timetable for that initiative?
I don't believe there is a firm timetable right now.
There's a problem with the land we are working with the town and getting is being held up with a little paperwork, as they say. So basically, we're operational where we are, so we're fine. It doesn't really affect us one way or the other. And so we're kind of letting the town handle it until the paperwork is all done, and then that's when the clock will actually start ticking when we get hold of the land ourselves. But Mr. Leach and the mayor have been helping a lot and putting a lot of time in trying to help us get that land. It will be off the highway, which the main problem with the highway is the safety issue.
Sure.
Because we also have to get onto 15 North from Bowling Green.
Right.
Which you have to rely on your passenger to let you know whether it's safe, whether it's not. So it's mainly a safety issue is why we're getting off and getting into a new facility.
I see. Well, it sounds like everything's well in the works there, and we'll certainly stay tuned to see what develops there. I know there has been a flashing sign on Route 15 that I've noticed myself trying to recruit volunteers. What would someone do if they're interested in becoming a volunteer?
Well, first let me say about the flashing sign that I want to thank the Jefferson Township Police Department for loaning that to us. They were instrumental in loaning that and setting that up for us. And that has attracted, at this point, four new members for us, four potential new members. So it's been probably one of the most effective membership drives that we've done yet. So, but if a member wants to join, if a person in the community wants to join the squad, number one, the best way is to call 973-663-3265, which is the captain's phone.
663-62...
3265.
3265. Okay.
Now, that phone is always answered. The captain's phone is forwarded to my cell phone, so I always make an attempt to answer it. And if I don't answer it immediately, I make it do a call back within an hour.
I know you're pretty good about that.
So, once they call my captain's phone, I'll collect some primary information from them, and then I would forward that information to our membership officer, Kathy Duda, and then she would contact them, give them the...
Make sure they have the necessary training, and wonderful. Okay, so we are in fact looking for more volunteers then, especially day members.
Yes, day members are golden ones.
The golden ones. Okay. All right, we're going to take a break now, and we'll be back shortly with more information on the Jefferson Rescue Squad. Welcome back to Jefferson Highlights Community Television, and I'm your host, Wendy McAgee. With us here today are members of the Jefferson Rescue Squad. We spoke with Jim Sutton, our new captain, and we're also going to speak with Kathy Duda, who's our vice president of the Jefferson Rescue Squad and administrator, as well as Dennis Walker, a line officer and our former captain, who's a veteran on the squad and has pretty much seen and done it all. Kathy, why don't we start with you? Tell us what brought you to the squad in the first place.
I think people join the rescue squad for different reasons. Some people are interested in the excitement and the adrenaline of a call. Some people are there because they like to hold people's hands and make people feel better, or to be a part of the community. One of the main reasons that I joined the squad is certainly to give back to the community and to meet people. I mean, certainly you get to meet lots of people that, you know, you wouldn't necessarily get to meet, both patients and fellow squad members. So I would say that was my main reasons for joining.
And what typically happens during a call? What are the procedures?
Well, we get toned out, and it would depend on whether or not it was a duty night or a day crew member or a scramble call. But my
A scramble call?
A scramble call happens if the duty team is out on a call already. Then what would happen is they would send out tones that it was a scramble call, that any available member would be able to go to the squad building to respond to that call.
And that might be when you would call in fire members, as Jim described earlier?
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. You know, like Jim said before, it's a little bit easier at night because more people tend to be home.
Sure.
So the chances of us needing to use additional resources would be less, but certainly, luckily for us, they're there.
Okay. And what's your role as administrator and VP?
Well, I'm new to the position of vice president. I spent 2 years as recording secretary, but vice president is in charge of fundraising. And generally, as the squad, we rely on donations. We're our own entity. I mean, the town, luckily, is very generous and works with us, and they donate money to us, but we rely on getting donations from the town people, and you know, on people who live out of town who maybe get into an accident or need our services here. Luckily, they send in donations, and the townspeople are very generous, and they send in donations. We will be mailing out our annual request for donations soon, so people can be looking in their mailboxes for that. But that's generally what my job is, fundraising.
Okay. And I understand there's a new ambulance on the horizon that's actually coming from the township rather than donations.
Yes, yes. Jim, do you want to talk a little bit more about
It
that?
speaks a little bit to your about your good relationship with the township, I suppose.
This is going to be the first time that this happened. The town met with the squad, and they offered to help us get this ambulance. It's going to be a Horton ambulance. Let's see, what else more can I say about it? I think it's scheduled to come into service sometime around September. We're going to have a wet down. Preliminary talks were to have a wet down combined with the fire department in September sometime. Generally, in the past, when we needed new equipment like that, because an ambulance tends to cost between $100,000 and $130,000, depending on what you put on it. We try to only put the essentials on it and keep everything very basic.
What does it generally come equipped with?
Well, when you order an ambulance, you're going to get not only the chassis and the box, or the place where you put the patient, but you also need to specify what kind of compartments and how you want them set up. You're going to want to specify how the inside of the ambulance is organized with the different compartments. You need to determine what kind of radio system you're going to put in it, what kind of lighting system you're going to put in it, what kind of sirens, things.
I see.
And then also how you're going to mark it too, because it comes in, I think they all come white, and then you have them painted your squad colors and you have your markings put on them.
What about the CPR equipment, the oxygen, IVs, that kind of thing?
Well, a lot of the equipment that's necessary for working with the patient is usually supplied after you get the ambulance, and you'll probably we'll transfer all that equipment from the old ambulance to the new ambulance. So our AEDs were just recently purchased.
AEDs?
Our defibrillators.
Ah, okay.
Okay, they were just recently purchased. Our stretcher and cot and our lifting equipment's all in good shape and doesn't need to be replaced. There's other things that we also add to the ambulances too, like drop-down change. I don't know if anybody's ever followed an ambulance or a fire truck and they see these chains jingling down behind the rear wheels. Those are automatic chains, and what happens is in the snowstorms, there's a switch on the console and they activate and automatically go underneath the tires to give you traction in the snow and the bad weather. So those are another
Very good.
spec that you put on your ambulance.
Good, good. And Kathy, Tell us a little bit about some of the most common types of calls that you get.
I would say we get a lot of calls that are like difficulty breathing calls, or falls, or you know, people having chest pain or think that they're having a heart attack or something like that. We get, typically, I would say that those are the calls that we get. Sometimes we get, you know, a call where there's a child involved, which is always, you know, a call that immediately your adrenaline starts right away, because, you know, if you hear a call that's like a child choking, you know, that's scary. I mean, especially for, you know, all of us have children, the three of us, so, you know, immediately as a parent, you're like, you know, have to go right away.
Can't get there fast enough.
Yeah, exactly, exactly, which is always the time that there tends to be, you know, traffic or, you know, something like that, where you're like, I need to get there now, yeah. So I would say, you know, those are the more typical calls are the, you know, difficulty breathing and stuff.
Okay. And Dennis, since you've been on the force for so long, you probably have certainly, as I said before, seen and done it all, and seen some very unusual ones. Can you share some anecdotes of some of the more, you know, off-kilter types of calls that you've gotten, or unusual in some way?
Oh, you know, especially I've been writing days for most of probably past 15 years. I've been on the days, so it's normally shorthanded. Usually there's 2, sometimes 3. Although recently we're in a lot better shape during the day. We have a fellow, Bill Flatt, worked at Picatinny Arsenal, and he handles a lot of the calls, which is actually giving me a little chance to get some more sleep. But yeah, we've had some different calls with plane crashes in the lake and hunters up in the mountain, you know, where we had to go all the way up Mace Mountain to...
Where they accidentally shoot themselves, or
Actually,
or each other?
One fellow had a heart attack all the way up in the woods there. And, yeah, that he was quite a big guy, too, and it took quite a while to get him in and get him out. And the results weren't too good, so he was a young man at the time. But in different types of car accidents, actually over here we're on 15 where you have the fatal accident zone. We had a guy hit the fatal accident sign. And you know, as I said, during the day, we get a lot of calls, and during the day, and not having as many people around, it's a lot more hands-on, and you know, you don't have somebody to turn to. You're usually stuck with it yourself, and you got to make your decisions.
Have any folks had any encounters with wild animals? I mean, we hear a lot about it, but in reality, I suspect there's not that much of it going on.
Years back, we had a couple from Brooklyn, and they had hit a bear, and the wife had gotten hurt, and the bear wasn't dead yet. It had hurt its back hip. And anytime anybody came near the car, the bear would start clawing at the car. So, and the fellow who was from Brooklyn never left Brooklyn. This was his first trip. They went up to Pennsylvania, and all he was hollering about his wife was, "You and your ideas, go ride in the country. It's over. I will never leave Brooklyn again." But that ended up working out. There happened to be some people from the state that came over and neutralized the bear and got him into a van and took the bear out, and everything worked out.
Good, good. Now, you mentioned something before about a plane crash in Lake Apacon.
Oh, yes.
Tell us a little bit about that. That sounds highly unusual.
Yeah, well, a couple years back, I live in Prospect Point, so during the day a lot you hear the planes practicing stalls. You know, they shut off the engine and then they drift down a little, then restart the engine. Well, this particular day, the engine, you know, it was a little louder than normal, and it went off, and I'm waiting, and I didn't hear anything restart, so I had a pretty good idea the plane went down someplace, and sure enough, I started to go down towards my pickup truck, and the call went out, plane the lake. So Company 2 has a boat, and during the day, you know, they're a little short-handed too, so I went down to the boat. So it happened I had a bathing suit with me. I had my jumpsuit with a bathing suit underneath, so we get to the boat, and I was just starting to deal with my losing hair. So when we got to the boat, we were drifting around, the pilot was out, we had, you know, everybody was out, and state police had showed up, so I was in the water. And unfortunately for me, that the news helicopter overhead needed something to focus on and to center it, and apparently they decided my bald spot in the back of my head was the thing to do. So when Channel 4 News, there was zoom-in shot of a big bald spot on my head, and the first call was from my mother saying, I didn't realize you were that bald. So that was...
I would suspect that most folks who saw it really were focusing more on the hero on site, first one there.
Well, it wasn't the hero.
First responder.
I was the only one that had a bathing suit on.
But so you got everybody out okay,
Yeah,
and
they ended up okay.
had a happy ending. That's
Yeah.
good. And Jim, you had mentioned something about snowmobilers that have gone through the ice.
Well, that was a call that I went on with my fellow member over there, Dennis, and the snowmobiler was out on the ice and had an accident behind one of the islands. So we went out on the ice. These ATVs picked us up, and they shuttled us out there, and the one girl was hurt. We put her on a backboard and stabilized her and transported her off the ice on a sled, brought her into the back of the ambulance, and because she was a trauma patient or hurt in an accident, the standard procedure is that you remove all the external clothes so that you can expose any injuries that might be there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in doing so, my fellow member, Mr. Dennis over here, pulled out his shears and began to cut off her coat, which turned out to be a down coat.
Oh, feathers everywhere.
So there was down feathers, and they just filled the air throughout the entire ambulance. Everywhere you looked, it was down feathers.
Well,
so,
it probably made her laugh and lighten the situation a little bit.
well,
She wasn't laughing at the time. She was unconscious.
Oh.
yes, she wasn't laughing. So that was pretty funny.
I guess
yeah.
living in a lake community, you have more unusual types of situations like that. And Dennis, as a former captain, what advice can you give to our new captain, Jim?
Quit. No, you just have to stay ahead of the situation, and it's basically simple management skills on the call. Step back and observe what's going on, and just keep everything running smooth. And there's certain people, and depending how bad the severity of the call is, to let the people in who can handle the severe traumas in, and the other people, you don't want to put them in a situation they can't handle. You never want to get a new person into a really bad situation, which they don't happen often, but they do happen.
Mm-hmm.
And we have enough experienced people that they're the ones you want in first.
Right. So you do keep up with training a lot, and I guess have some updating going on in your training schedule.
They're called CEUs, and the state mandates that every member has a minimum of 24 CEUs over a 3-year period. If you're nationally certified, you have to have 48 CEUs. And a CEU is called a continuing education unit, and that's by participating in different training drills that take place, you get so many CEU classes, so many CEU points towards your total.
I see. Okay, so if somebody who's never had any training or experience whatsoever comes off the street and is interested in becoming a member of the Jefferson Rescue Squad, they would contact you by calling 663-3265,
3265.
and then Kathy, you would set them up with the CEU training?
What I would do is I would contact them and get them, they would need to have a physical and that type of thing. And then we have a lieutenant who is in charge of actually setting up the training for them. But we make sure that anyone who is interested in joining the squad gets all of the training that they need. It's of no cost to them.
Great.
The physical is free, everything is free. We make sure that we take care of everything that they need if they're interested in joining.
Skyline's Medical is nice enough to do that for us.
Oh, good.
Right.
Good.
Charged. So.
Right.
Well, it sounds like you have a lot of good partners in place to
Yes.
make things run
The town
smoothly.
is very supportive. The members of the community and the Chamber of Commerce very supportive.
Well, Jefferson residents, we certainly welcome any new volunteers, and our squad here will take care of anything you need to do to get up and running. And we thank all three of you for joining us here today and sharing what the squad does and being a valuable member of the community.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.